If you've ever felt trapped by what others think or let opinions control your choices, this audiobook is exactly what you need. In the next few minutes, you'll learn how to break free from the need for approval and start living life on your own terms. You'll discover practical strategies to define your own success, stop seeking validation from others, and prioritize what truly matters to you. From building daily confidence to handling judgment calmly, this audiobook gives you actionable steps to grow stronger, smarter, and more independent. By the end, you'll understand how to focus on purpose, surround yourself with the right people, and make decisions guided by your standards, not someone else's expectations. Stay with us, apply these lessons, and watch how your life changes. Subscribe for more content that helps you take control and live intentionally every single day. Number 1. Define your own success metrics. Defining your own success metrics is one of the most powerful shifts you can make in your life. Most people live chasing standards that aren't even theirs. From a young age, society teaches what success should look like, the grades you must earn, the job you should have, the car you must drive, the house you should buy, and even the kind of life you're supposed to post about. These images become invisible rulers, measuring your worth day after day. The problem is, when you use someone else's ruler to measure your life, you'll always come up short. You'll never feel good enough, no matter how much you achieve. The real freedom begins when you define what success truly means to you, when you decide what actually matters, and stop living according to the expectations of others. To define your own success metrics, the first step is to pause and look at where your current standards came from. Much of what people consider important is inherited, not chosen. Maybe your parents taught that stability is the goal, so you've spent your life avoiding risk even when your heart wants to create. Maybe your culture praises status and recognition, so you work endlessly for titles that don't fulfill you. Maybe you've learned that success equals wealth, so you chase money while feeling empty inside. None of these values are wrong on their own, but they are wrong when they belong to someone else and not you. Defining your metrics means unlearning what no longer serves you and replacing it with what feels authentic and aligned with who you are. Ask yourself what truly fulfills you. Not what looks impressive, not what gets the most applause, but what makes you feel calm, proud, and alive. Success should not only be about external achievement, it should include inner peace, contribution, growth, and integrity. You can earn millions, but if your days are filled with anxiety and emptiness, that's not success. You can have a simple life, but if you wake up every morning with purpose, that's success. The key is understanding that success is not a single shape or outcome. It's a reflection of your values expressed consistently through your choices. Many people delay defining success because they fear judgment. It feels safer to follow the crowd than to stand alone with your own definition. But here's the truth: the crowd will never understand your standards because they weren't made for them. Every person has a different path, and comparison kills authenticity. The moment you stop comparing yourself to others, you create space to grow on your own terms. It's like turning off the noise so you can finally hear your own voice. That voice might be quiet at first, buried under layers of conditioning and fear, but it's there waiting to be heard. Start by identifying what genuinely matters in 5 main areas of life: health, relationships, purpose, contribution, and personal growth. For each one, write down what success looks like for you personally. For example, in health, maybe your goal isn't to have the perfect body that social media promotes, but to have energy, strength, and discipline. In relationships, maybe success isn't about being surrounded by people, but having a few deep, honest connections where you can be yourself. In purpose, perhaps you define success as doing meaningful work that aligns with your values rather than chasing prestige. In contribution, you might define success as making a difference, even in small ways. And in personal growth, maybe success means continuous learning and the ability to stay calm under pressure. Once you define your standards, the next step is to measure your progress according to them, not others. Most people judge themselves by comparison: who's ahead, who's richer, who's happier. But those measurements are illusions. When you compare, you destroy your focus. Instead, measure by effort and alignment. Did you stay true to your principles today? Did you move one step closer to your version of success? Did you act with integrity even when nobody was watching? These are the only metrics that matter, because they build the foundation of a life that feels genuine. Defining your own metrics doesn't mean ignoring reality or responsibility. It means making your priorities the anchor of your actions. If your metric of success is freedom, then you design your career to allow flexibility. If your metric is peace, then you make decisions that protect your mental space. If your metric is growth, then you embrace challenges that stretch you. It's about intentional living. Every choice guided by your own compass. Without your own definition, you'll drift endlessly trying to meet everyone else's. There's a certain discipline required to live by your own standards. It's not easy because the world constantly rewards conformity. People will question your choices, doubt your direction, and sometimes even ridicule your definition of success. You will be misunderstood. But being misunderstood is a small price to pay for being authentic. Every great thinker, creator, or leader was misunderstood at first because they refused to follow the path laid out for them. When you define your own metrics, you stop chasing temporary approval and start building lasting fulfillment. A practical way to stay grounded in your definition is to review your metrics weekly. Reflect on what you did that aligned with your version of success and what didn't. If your definition includes living with integrity, did you keep your word? If it includes creativity, did you make time to create? If it includes peace, did you protect your mental space from unnecessary drama? This reflection isn't about guilt or perfection, it's about awareness. Over time, this practice rewires your habits and strengthens your confidence. You begin to trust yourself more because you're no longer living on borrowed standards. Another essential practice is learning to say no. Every time you say yes to something that doesn't align with your values, you weaken your personal boundaries. Saying no is how you protect your metrics. It's how you guard your time, your energy, and your focus. The moment you define success for yourself, the world will test it. Opportunities will come that look appealing but don't fit your purpose. People will ask you to compromise for comfort or popularity. Standing firm in your definition is where true strength is built. You can't live by your standards if you're constantly bending to please others. There will be moments of doubt, especially when the external world doesn't reward your standards immediately. You might question whether your definition is too small or too different. But remember, success isn't about speed or recognition. It's about alignment and endurance. The person who walks steadily on their own path, even when no one applauds, is far stronger than the one who runs fast on a borrowed path. Staying consistent with your definition will eventually bring peace, confidence, and clarity, rewards far greater than temporary approval. Real fulfillment comes when your actions, values, and goals are in harmony. When your definition of success matches how you live each day, you no longer need to prove anything to anyone. You become centered, grounded, and self-assured. You can celebrate others without jealousy and fail without shame because your worth isn't tied to outcomes. It's tied to integrity and purpose. This is the foundation of true inner freedom. The ability to walk through life on your own terms without apology. Defining your own success metrics transforms how you see yourself and the world around you. You stop asking, "Am I doing enough?" and start asking, "Am I being true to myself?" You begin to live intentionally, not reactively. You stop waiting for permission to be happy because you realize happiness isn't something to chase, it's something to define. Once you know what success means to you, every decision becomes clearer. You no longer need to impress, you simply need to express who you truly are. Life becomes lighter when you stop carrying the weight of everyone else's expectations. You can breathe deeper, think clearer, and act with conviction. You stop rushing toward meaningless milestones and start creating meaningful experiences. Defining your own success doesn't isolate you, it liberates you. It gives you direction, confidence, and peace. It's not about being better than others, it's about being better than your past self. It's not about proving anything, it's about living honestly. When you define your own metrics, you reclaim ownership of your life. You stop being a passenger in someone else's vehicle and take the wheel yourself. You no longer chase shadows of approval because you've built a solid foundation of self-respect. Each morning you wake up knowing your purpose, and each night you go to bed knowing you stayed true to it. That's real success. Quiet, steady, and deeply fulfilling. It's the kind of success that doesn't depend on applause, likes, or validation. It depends only on your commitment to living by your own standards. This is where real power begins, the power of defining your own path and walking it with clarity and courage. Once you do, the opinions of others lose their hold. You stop asking for directions and start writing your own map. You realize that success was never about being seen, it was always about being whole. Number 2. Detach validation from self-worth. Detaching validation from self-worth is one of the most liberating yet challenging things a person can do. For most of life, people are conditioned to believe that their value depends on how others see them. From early childhood, approval becomes a currency. A child is praised for good behavior, rewarded for grades, admired for achievements, and slowly learns that being accepted means being worthy. This conditioning grows stronger with age. At school, at work, on social media, everywhere the world teaches that validation equals success. The applause, the likes, the compliments, and recognition become the food the ego feeds on. The problem is that when your worth depends on validation, you're constantly hungry for more. You're never full. You chase approval to feel enough, but the feeling fades as quickly as it comes. True freedom comes when your worth no longer depends on the opinions or recognition of others. Self-worth is not something given, it's something recognized. It's not built by external approval, but by internal alignment. The moment you attach your value to outside validation, you hand over your peace to something you can't control. People's opinions change, admiration fades, and applause ends. If your sense of self rises and falls with their judgment, you'll never find stability. Detachment doesn't mean indifference. It means independence. It means you can appreciate praise without needing it, accept criticism without breaking, and live confidently whether or not anyone notices. To begin detaching from validation, you have to first understand the subtle ways it controls your choices. Notice how often you act, not from conviction, but from fear of disapproval. How often you say yes when you mean no, because you want to be liked. How often you post, speak, or work to impress instead of express. Validation seeking hides behind politeness, ambition, and even kindness. It's not always loud, but it's persistent. Recognizing it is the first step to freedom. The next step is asking a simple but powerful question before every major decision. If no one knew I did this, would I still do it? That question cuts straight through the noise. If the answer is yes, your motive is pure. If the answer is no, your decision is driven by the need for validation. The truth is, validation is addictive because it gives short bursts of pleasure. It feels good when someone appreciates you, agrees with you, or admires you. But that pleasure is temporary. It's like eating sugar. It satisfies for a moment, then leaves you craving more. The cycle of validation seeking is endless. Perform, receive praise, feel good, repeat. When the praise stops, anxiety starts. The mind begins to question its worth. Breaking that cycle requires building inner stability that doesn't depend on applause. That stability comes from living in alignment with your values, regardless of external reaction. Self-worth should be grounded in identity, not image. Who you are when no one is watching reveals your real strength. People often mistake popularity for value, but they are not the same. Popularity fades with trends, value grows with truth. The most fulfilled people are not those who are constantly praised, but those who can sit in silence, knowing they are enough, without validation. Their peace doesn't fluctuate with attention, it's steady because it comes from within. Detaching validation doesn't mean isolating yourself or rejecting all feedback. Healthy feedback is useful, but it's different from validation. Feedback helps you grow, validation feeds your ego. You can listen to opinions without letting them define you. You can accept advice without losing your independence. The key is awareness, to know the difference between learning and pleasing. A person detached from validation doesn't live to prove. They live to improve. They appreciate genuine feedback, but never surrender their identity for acceptance. A powerful exercise for breaking dependence on validation is silence. Spend time without the noise of approval, no posting, no explaining, no seeking acknowledgement. In silence, the ego starts to lose its grip. You learn to be comfortable with being unseen. The more comfortable you become in your own company, the less you crave external approval. It's in those quiet moments that you begin to realize your worth has always been there, buried under the need to be noticed. Many people tie their self-worth to performance. They believe they are only as good as their latest success. When they achieve something, they feel valuable. When they fail, they feel worthless. This conditional relationship with self-esteem creates constant pressure to perform perfectly, but perfection is an illusion. Everyone fails, everyone makes mistakes, and everyone falls short sometimes. The key is to separate your actions from your identity. You can fail at something without being a failure. You can make mistakes and still be worthy of respect. Detachment allows you to see failure as feedback, not as proof of unworthiness. One of the hardest aspects of detaching from validation is dealing with disapproval. No matter what you do, someone will disagree, misunderstand, or criticize. That's part of being human. Trying to please everyone guarantees disappointment. Even if you succeed temporarily, it comes at the cost of authenticity. You dilute your truth to gain approval that doesn't last. But when you accept that disapproval is inevitable, it loses its power over you. You no longer live in fear of rejection because you realize rejection doesn't define you, it only reveals misalignment. Building self-worth without validation requires daily reinforcement. Every day, you have to remind yourself that your value doesn't decrease because someone fails to see it. Your worth doesn't rise with compliments or fall with criticism. You are valuable because you exist, because you are human, because you have the capacity to grow, love, and create. The world often measures worth in numbers, status, and recognition, but none of those things reflect your inner value. They reflect visibility, not worthiness. To internalize this truth, create a habit of self-validation. Instead of waiting for others to affirm you, Affirm yourself. When you accomplish something, acknowledge it privately. When you act with integrity, remind yourself that it matters. When you face criticism, remember that it doesn't erase your effort. Self-validation is about owning your achievements and respecting your journey, even when others don't notice. Over time, this builds an internal foundation so strong that external noise can't shake it. The process of detaching from validation also involves forgiveness. Forgiving yourself for the years spent chasing approval, for the times you compromised your values just to fit in. Everyone has done it. What matters is not the past, but the present awareness that allows you to live differently now. Every time you choose authenticity over approval, you reclaim a piece of yourself that was lost. Slowly, confidence replaces insecurity, and peace replaces anxiety. Living without the need for validation doesn't make you arrogant or detached from others. It makes you balanced. You can give without needing credit, speak without needing agreement, and love without needing reciprocation. That's real strength, to act from self-respect, not self-doubt. The opinions of others may still reach your ears, but they no longer reach your heart. Detachment doesn't mean you stop caring about people. It means you stop depending on them for identity. It allows you to love freely because your love isn't driven by fear of rejection. It allows you to work passionately because your work isn't controlled by the need for recognition. It allows you to grow honestly because your progress isn't limited by other people's perceptions. When your worth is self-sustained, life becomes lighter. You no longer need to constantly prove, defend, or explain yourself. You simply live truthfully. Ultimately, detaching validation from self-worth is about reclaiming emotional freedom. It's the freedom to think independently, feel deeply, and act confidently without constantly checking for approval. It's the quiet confidence that says, "I am enough, even if no one notices." It's the maturity to value peace over popularity and authenticity over acceptance. The more you practice it, the more natural it becomes. Over time, your identity becomes rooted in something unshakable, your own truth. When you stop living for validation, you begin living for meaning. You shift from impressing to expressing, from seeking attention to serving purpose. Your actions become purer because they're not driven by ego but by intention. You no longer chase recognition because you recognize yourself, and in that recognition lies the deepest kind of peace, the kind that doesn't depend on applause because it comes from knowing who you are and being at peace with it. Number 3. Challenge negative approval-seeking habits. Challenging negative approval-seeking habits is a process of unlearning behaviors that have been quietly shaping your decisions for years. It requires honesty, courage, and awareness to recognize how deeply the desire for approval has infiltrated your life. Many people don't even realize how much of what they do is driven by the need to be accepted or liked. It's in the way you hold back your opinions, the way you overcommit to please others, the way you worry about being misunderstood. Approval seeking starts as a survival mechanism. Humans are wired to belong, but over time, it becomes a mental cage that limits authenticity and peace. When your actions depend on the reactions of others, you stop being the author of your own life. Negative approval seeking is not just about wanting people to like you. It's about fearing disapproval more than you value your truth. It makes you shrink in conversations, suppress ideas, and avoid confrontation even when silence hurts you. It shows up in subtle behaviors, apologizing for things you don't need to, agreeing when you disagree, trying to fix people's perceptions of you, or pretending to be fine when you're not. These patterns don't come from weakness, they come from conditioning. Somewhere in your past, approval felt like safety. The brain learned that fitting in prevented rejection, and rejection felt dangerous. But what once protected you now restricts you. The goal isn't to become rebellious or careless about others' opinions. It's to free yourself from the invisible control they hold. The first step in breaking approval-seeking habits is awareness. Pay attention to the moments you hesitate before acting or speaking. Notice when you modify your behavior because you're afraid of how someone might perceive you. Observe the anxiety that arises when you imagine being judged or disliked. This awareness is uncomfortable, but it's necessary. You cannot change what you don't acknowledge. Write down situations where you felt pressured to please. Then ask yourself, what was I afraid would happen if I didn't? Most often, the fear is not of rejection itself, but of what rejection represents, the idea of being unworthy. Once you realize that worth doesn't vanish with disapproval, the grip of approval-seeking begins to loosen. The next step is learning to tolerate discomfort. People who constantly seek approval struggle with rejection because they associate it with loss of value. The truth is, disapproval is part of being authentic. Not everyone will understand or appreciate you, and that's okay. The more you practice being comfortable with people not liking you, the stronger you become. Start small. Express a different opinion in a group discussion. Decline an invitation when you genuinely don't want to go. Stop explaining yourself when you make a choice that aligns with your needs. Each time you do this, you train your mind to see that disapproval is not a threat, it's just feedback from someone's personal lens. Challenging these habits also means questioning your motives. Before saying yes to a request or making a decision, ask, am I doing this because it aligns with my values or because I want approval? When the motive is rooted in fear of disapproval, the outcome will always drain you. When the motive is aligned with authenticity, even difficult choices bring peace. Approval-seeking often disguises itself as kindness or cooperation, but true kindness doesn't come at the cost of self-respect. It's possible to be compassionate and firm at the same time. The difference lies in intent. One seeks validation, the other comes from genuine care. Another powerful way to challenge approval-seeking is by redefining rejection. Rejection is not proof that something is wrong with you, it's evidence that your truth doesn't fit someone else's preferences. People reject based on their values, experiences, and limitations, not your worth. When you internalize this, rejection stops being personal. It becomes information. You learn who aligns with your energy and who doesn't. This mindset turns rejection into a filter instead of a wound. You stop trying to win over everyone and start focusing on the people who genuinely value your presence without performance. Approval-seeking is often tied to perfectionism. The belief that you must always say the right thing, do the right thing, and never disappoint anyone keeps you trapped in anxiety. But perfection is not connection. It's performance. People may admire perfection, but they connect with honesty. The more you try to appear flawless, the more distant you become from real connection. Allowing yourself to be imperfect, to make mistakes, and to be seen as you are is an act of courage. It teaches you that you can survive criticism and still respect yourself. It's also essential to notice the environments that feed approval-seeking. Certain relationships, workplaces, or social settings can amplify the pressure to please. If you're constantly surrounded by people who reward compliance and punish authenticity, it's difficult to grow. You can't heal approval-seeking in an environment that depends on it. Sometimes, breaking this habit means distancing yourself from dynamics that reinforce it. This doesn't mean cutting everyone off. It means being selective about where you invest your energy. Seek spaces where honesty is appreciated, not penalized. Surround yourself with people who respect your boundaries and encourage your individuality. Self-respect is the antidote to approval addiction. The more you respect yourself, the less you need external permission to feel worthy. Build self-respect through daily actions that honor your values. Keep promises to yourself, even small ones. Speak your truth even when it's uncomfortable. Follow through on your goals without waiting for encouragement. Self-respect grows every time you act in alignment with your principles. Over time, the approval of others feels less necessary because you've already approved of yourself. It's also important to reflect on the cost of approval seeking. Every time you suppress your truth to gain acceptance, you trade authenticity for temporary comfort. Every time you bend your boundaries to please, you weaken your inner foundation. Living this way might feel safe, but it's exhausting. You end up living multiple versions of yourself, one for each person whose approval you crave. The result is disconnection from your real identity. To reclaim your authenticity, you must be willing to lose people who only like the version of you that pleases them. Those who truly value you will stay, even when you stop performing. Challenging approval seeking also means learning emotional neutrality toward praise. Praise can be as addictive as criticism is painful. When you depend on compliments to feel good, you give away your power just as much as when you're crushed by disapproval. Learn to appreciate praise, but not rely on it. Acknowledge it with gratitude, then return to your center. The goal is not to become numb, but balanced, unmoved by extremes of approval or rejection. This balance creates emotional freedom, allowing you to act from purpose instead of pressure. Another effective habit to build is radical honesty with yourself. Approval seeking thrives in self-deception. You tell yourself you're helping, cooperating, or being polite when in reality you're avoiding discomfort. Being honest means admitting when your motives are based on fear. It means recognizing the parts of you that crave recognition and learning to soothe them with self-compassion instead of external validation. When you become truthful with yourself, you stop manipulating situations for approval and start building real connections rooted in honesty. Overcoming approval seeking doesn't happen overnight. It's a gradual shift in how you see yourself and the world. There will be moments of doubt, times when silence feels unbearable, and situations where being authentic costs you comfort. But every moment of discomfort is a step toward freedom. Each time you resist the urge to seek approval, you strengthen your self-trust. That trust becomes your anchor in a world that constantly demands conformity. In time, you begin to notice changes. You start speaking with more clarity, making decisions faster, and feeling lighter. You no longer need to over-explain or justify yourself. You stop replaying conversations in your head, wondering if you said the right thing. Your confidence grows quietly, built on the foundation of inner approval. You find peace in being seen exactly as you are, without masks or performances. Challenging negative approval-seeking habits is not about becoming indifferent to others. It's about reclaiming your power to define your own worth. It's the shift from dependency to autonomy, from fear to freedom. When you stop living for applause, your actions become more authentic. When you no longer chase acceptance, you attract genuine respect. The world's approval may come and go, but your self-respect once built stays, and that unshakable sense of self is the ultimate reward for choosing authenticity over approval. Number 4. Build confidence through daily integrity. Confidence built on daily integrity is the kind of strength that lasts. It isn't loud or showy, it's steady, quiet, and deeply rooted in self-respect. Most people search for confidence in external achievements. They think it comes from how they look, how much they own, or how others perceive them. But true confidence doesn't come from outcomes. It comes from consistency. It's the natural result of living in alignment with your values every single day. Integrity is doing what's right even when no one is watching, and every time you act with integrity, you strengthen your belief in yourself. Confidence is not a product of success, it's a product of self-trust. And self-trust is built one honest action at a time. When your words match your actions, your mind becomes calm. When you live by your principles, you stop doubting yourself because there's no inner conflict. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, you send your brain a simple but powerful message. I can rely on me. That's what confidence really is. The ability to trust yourself under pressure. Many people think confidence is about feeling fearless, but it's not. It's about being steady in your choices even when fear is present. You can only reach that steadiness when your actions reflect your values day after day. Integrity is tested most when it's inconvenient. It's easy to stay honest when things are going smoothly, but the real growth happens when you're tired, stressed, or tempted to take shortcuts. The decision to stay true to your standards in those moments is where character is built. Integrity is not about perfection, it's about direction. It's about choosing the harder right instead of the easier wrong. When you repeatedly do what aligns with your inner compass, your confidence becomes unshakable because you know who you are even when circumstances change. A person who builds integrity daily doesn't need validation or external proof of worth. They already carry certainty within. This certainty shows up in the smallest details, showing up on time, doing what you said you would do, admitting mistakes instead of covering them up, speaking truthfully even when it costs comfort. Each of these actions reinforces self-respect. You start to walk differently, speak more clearly, and stand taller because you know you've earned your confidence through discipline. No one can take away what you've built through integrity. To build confidence through daily integrity, start by keeping promises to yourself. They don't have to be big or dramatic, they just need to be consistent. If you decide to wake up early, do it. If you promise yourself you'll finish a task, complete it. Every time you honor a commitment, no matter how small, you strengthen the bond between intention and action. Confidence collapses when you break your own word repeatedly. Each broken promise creates doubt, and doubt eats away at self-belief. But when your actions align with your intentions, your inner dialogue shifts. You begin to see yourself as capable and trustworthy. Another crucial part of integrity is honesty. Not just honesty with others, but honesty with yourself. It's easy to hide behind excuses or justifications when things don't go as planned. But honesty is what keeps your confidence grounded. When you take full responsibility for your choices, both good and bad, you gain power. Denial weakens self-trust because it separates you from reality. Admitting the truth, even when it's uncomfortable, keeps you aligned with growth. Confidence grows stronger when it's built on truth rather than illusion. Integrity also requires consistency in private behavior. The way you act when no one is watching defines your real character. Many people act virtuous in public, but compromise their values when they believe no one will know. The problem is, you always know. Your mind records every decision. If your actions contradict your words, even secretly, you'll feel it as internal tension. You can fool others, but you can't fool yourself. That tension quietly erodes confidence, because part of you knows you're not living authentically. On the other hand, when you act with integrity in private, your confidence grows because you have nothing to hide from others or from yourself. Another important aspect of daily integrity is accountability. Confidence doesn't mean believing you're always right. It means being strong enough to own your mistakes. People who take responsibility for their actions grow faster than those who deflect blame. When you hold yourself accountable, you develop maturity and reliability, qualities that naturally command respect. Accountability also prevents guilt from festering, keeping your mind clear and focused. Guilt weakens confidence. Responsibility strengthens it. When you fix your mistakes and learn from them, your self-respect deepens. You begin to trust that even if you stumble, you'll correct your path. Integrity also involves treating others with fairness and respect. Confidence is not arrogance or dominance, it's quiet strength built on empathy and character. When you treat people kindly, even when they can't benefit you, you build integrity that radiates authenticity. The way you interact with others mirrors your relationship with yourself. If you lie, manipulate, or take advantage of people, your subconscious registers that behavior, and deep down you know you can't fully trust yourself. True confidence can only exist in a person who acts with fairness, because integrity breeds inner peace, and peace is the foundation of lasting confidence. Daily integrity also means aligning your habits with your values. It's easy to talk about discipline, but real growth happens in the small, unglamorous moments, choosing focus over distraction, effort over comfort, and long-term vision over temporary pleasure. Every disciplined action reinforces integrity. Each time you push through laziness, you prove that you can follow through. That quiet discipline translates into confidence because you no longer question whether you'll show up, you just do. Confidence built on integrity is steady because it's earned, not borrowed. It's not based on talent, appearance, or approval, but on consistent effort and truth. It doesn't crumble when you face criticism or failure because it's rooted in something deeper than outcome. It's rooted in character. A confident person grounded in integrity doesn't need to boast. Their presence carries calm assurance. They don't chase validation because they already have internal proof of reliability. Living with integrity also builds emotional strength. When you stay true to your values, you stop carrying the weight of guilt and shame. You no longer waste energy pretending or defending yourself. That energy is redirected toward growth and purpose. You become mentally lighter and more focused because your conscience is clear. Integrity frees the mind, and a free mind performs better in every area of life. Another way integrity builds confidence is through alignment between your thoughts, words, and actions. When these three are in harmony, there's no inner contradiction. You feel whole. When they're out of sync, you feel anxious and unsure. Integrity is the bridge that connects intention to execution. It transforms ideas into reality and belief into behavior. The more aligned you become, the more confident you feel, because your life becomes coherent. You are no longer split between what you say and what you do. Sometimes integrity requires sacrifice. It might mean losing opportunities that conflict with your principles, walking away from relationships that compromise your values, or declining shortcuts that promise quick success. But those sacrifices are never losses. They are investments in self-respect. Every time you choose integrity over comfort, you reinforce the belief that your peace is more important than approval. Over time, this belief becomes unshakable confidence because you no longer fear loss. You know your worth isn't for sale. To maintain daily integrity, practice reflection. Spend a few minutes each evening reviewing your actions. Ask yourself if you lived according to your values, if you treated others with respect, if you kept your word. This reflection strengthens awareness and helps you correct course quickly. Integrity isn't about never falling short. It's about consistently realigning with your truth. When you reflect regularly, you stop drifting and start living intentionally. Confidence through integrity also creates reliability in the eyes of others. People naturally trust those whose actions are consistent with their words. Your credibility becomes your reputation. Over time, opportunities find you because people know you're dependable. But even more valuable than external trust is the internal confidence that comes from knowing you live honestly. That kind of confidence can't be shaken by failure, criticism, or uncertainty. Confidence gained through integrity is the kind that doesn't fade when circumstances change. It stays with you whether you succeed or fail, because it's built on behavior, not outcome. When you rely on external success to feel confident, every setback destroys it. But when your confidence is rooted in integrity, no one can take it away. You know who you are, you know what you stand for, and you live according to that every day. In the end, confidence isn't about appearing strong. It's about being whole. It's about looking at yourself in the mirror and feeling proud of the person staring back, because you've lived truthfully, consistently, and with honor. Each day of integrity adds a layer to that strength. Over time, it becomes unbreakable. You stop needing to prove yourself because your actions already speak. And that's the purest form of confidence, calm, grounded, and earned through daily integrity. Number 5. Set emotional boundaries with others. Setting emotional boundaries with others is one of the most important steps toward protecting your peace and maintaining your self-respect. Many people struggle with boundaries because they feel guilty about saying no or fear disappointing others. But without boundaries, your emotions become a playground for anyone to step into, and you slowly lose control over your mental and emotional energy. Boundaries aren't walls, they're guidelines for how you expect to be treated and how you'll respond when someone crosses those lines. They are not about controlling others, they're about managing your own emotional space with clarity and strength. When you don't have emotional boundaries, other people's moods, opinions, and actions can dictate how you feel. You might find yourself constantly walking on eggshells, over-explaining, or trying to keep everyone happy just to avoid tension. This leads to exhaustion, resentment, and a sense of losing yourself in the process. Emotional boundaries protect your identity from being swallowed by the emotions of others. They help you differentiate between what belongs to you and what doesn't. You are responsible for your thoughts, feelings, and actions, not for everyone else's. Setting boundaries starts with awareness. You need to know where your emotional energy is going and what drains it. Pay attention to how you feel around certain people. If you often leave a conversation feeling anxious, guilty, or mentally tired, that's a sign your boundaries are being crossed. Recognizing this isn't selfish, it's self-awareness. You have every right to protect your peace without explanation or apology. Learning to say no isn't rude, it's healthy. Every time you say no to something that violates your peace, you're saying yes to your mental well-being. Emotional boundaries require you to understand your limits. Limits aren't about weakness, they're about balance. You can be kind without being overextended. You can be supportive without being drained. When you give endlessly without boundaries, you begin to run on empty, and that leads to frustration and burnout. Real compassion includes yourself. You can't pour from an empty cup, and constantly prioritizing other people's needs over your own creates quiet resentment that slowly builds into emotional fatigue. One of the most powerful forms of boundary setting is learning to detach from unnecessary emotional responsibility. You are not responsible for fixing other people's feelings, solving their problems, or making them happy. You can care deeply about someone without carrying their emotional baggage. Detachment doesn't mean you stop caring, it means you stop over-caring to the point of self-destruction. Healthy detachment allows you to be present and compassionate while still maintaining emotional separation. You can listen without absorbing, support without rescuing, and empathize without losing yourself. Boundaries also protect you from manipulation. People who lack respect for others' limits often use guilt, shame, or pressure to control how you feel or act. They may frame your boundaries as selfish or accuse you of not caring. But their discomfort is not your problem. When you set boundaries, Those who benefit from your lack of them may resist. That's normal. Stand firm. Boundaries test relationships. The healthy ones will adapt, and the toxic ones will fade away. Either way, you win, because peace is more valuable than approval. To maintain emotional boundaries, you must also learn to communicate them clearly. Silence invites misunderstanding. Be direct, but calm when expressing your needs. You don't have to justify your feelings or offer long explanations. Simple statements like "I'm not comfortable discussing this" or "I need some time to myself" are enough. The more you practice expressing your boundaries, the easier it becomes. Over time, people who respect you will adjust, and those who don't will reveal themselves through their reactions. Emotional boundaries also mean limiting access to your vulnerability. Not everyone deserves to know your private struggles or emotional experiences. Oversharing can make you a target for judgment, gossip, or manipulation. Choose carefully who you open up to. Trust is something that should be earned, not automatically given. Protecting your emotional privacy isn't about being closed off, it's about being discerning. When you share wisely, you maintain control over your emotional space and avoid unnecessary pain. Technology and social media have made emotional boundaries even more important. Constant exposure to other people's opinions, lives, and emotions can blur your sense of self. Scrolling endlessly or comparing your life to others can drain your energy without you even realizing it. Set limits on how much emotional input you allow from your digital world. You don't have to respond immediately to every message, and you don't have to engage in every debate. Protect your attention like it's your most valuable resource, because it is. Boundaries also apply to family and close relationships. These are often the hardest places to set limits, because the emotional ties are deep. But even with loved ones, you have the right to say, "This conversation makes me uncomfortable," or "I can't take on your problems right now." Love doesn't mean endless sacrifice. Healthy love includes mutual respect for emotional space. When you teach people how to treat you through consistent boundaries, your relationships become more balanced and peaceful. It's also important to recognize that emotional boundaries aren't about avoidance. They're about conscious choice. You don't have to cut people off to have boundaries. You just need to decide how much access they get to your energy. You can choose when to engage and when to step back. You can love someone deeply, but still protect your mental space. Boundaries aren't barriers. They are bridges that allow connection without chaos. Building strong emotional boundaries also requires self-worth. If you believe your feelings don't matter, you'll keep tolerating disrespect and emotional overload. But when you understand your value, you stop settling for situations that harm your peace. Confidence makes boundary setting natural. You stop seeking validation through people-pleasing and start choosing self-respect over constant approval. The more you value yourself, the stronger your emotional boundaries become. Sometimes, setting boundaries will make people uncomfortable, especially if they've been used to you always saying yes. That discomfort is not your responsibility to fix. Growth often creates temporary tension, but that tension is worth it. The people who truly care about you will adjust because they want you to be well. The ones who leave were never aligned with your peace in the first place. Don't feel guilty for protecting your mental space. You're not being distant, you're being deliberate. An important part of maintaining emotional boundaries is recognizing emotional manipulation when it appears. This can come in the form of guilt-tripping, gaslighting, or passive-aggressive comments. When you sense manipulation, pause before reacting. Don't argue, defend, or over-explain. A calm, firm response like, "That doesn't work for me," or "I'm not comfortable continuing this conversation," is enough. Boundaries lose power when you constantly justify them. Strength lies in calm repetition, not long explanations. It's also helpful to understand that emotional boundaries are flexible, not rigid. They can evolve as you grow. Some situations may require firmer boundaries, while others may allow more openness. The goal is not to isolate yourself, but to stay balanced and self-aware. Boundaries that are too loose lead to emotional chaos, while boundaries that are too tight lead to loneliness. The key is to find your middle ground, where you can connect authentically without losing yourself. You'll know your boundaries are working when you start feeling calmer, lighter, and more focused. You'll stop reacting impulsively to other people's moods. You'll stop replaying conversations in your head, wondering if you said the wrong thing. You'll stop chasing approval and start prioritizing peace. Emotional freedom doesn't come from controlling others. It comes from managing your own reactions. Boundaries are how you choose peace over chaos every single day. Another sign of healthy boundaries is emotional neutrality. When someone tries to provoke or guilt you, and you can respond without anger or fear, that's emotional mastery. It means you've stopped letting external forces dictate your internal state. You still feel empathy, but you no longer absorb other people's negativity. You can listen without losing yourself. You can care without being consumed. That's the power of emotional boundaries. They create freedom, not distance. Finally, remember that setting boundaries is not a one-time act. It's a lifelong practice. Every new relationship, situation, or challenge will test your limits. But each time you choose to honor your emotional space, you reinforce your self-worth. You stop living reactively and start living intentionally. Boundaries are the invisible framework that allows you to live peacefully in a chaotic world. They help you stand strong, protect your energy, and love others from a place of strength, not sacrifice. And when you live with that kind of balance, you don't just protect your emotions, you protect your entire sense of peace. Number 6. Focus energy on personal growth. Focusing your energy on personal growth is the foundation of a life that feels meaningful, stable, and fulfilling. Most people spend their days reacting to what happens around them, chasing validation, comparing themselves to others, or trying to keep up with expectations that don't actually matter to their deeper goals. But when your focus shifts inward, your direction becomes clear. You start measuring progress not by how others see you, but by how much you evolve mentally, emotionally, and spiritually each day. Growth isn't about being perfect, it's about being better than you were yesterday. It's the quiet work of refining your habits, upgrading your thoughts, and pushing your limits in ways that no one else may ever see, but you will feel it in your peace and strength. Personal growth begins with self-awareness. You can't change what you don't understand. This means taking time to look honestly at who you are, not through the lens of judgment, but through the eyes of curiosity. Notice what triggers you, what drains you, and what excites you. Pay attention to your habits, your emotional reactions, and the stories you tell yourself. Most of our limitations come from patterns we repeat without realizing it. When you begin to observe yourself instead of blindly reacting, you gain power. Awareness is the first form of self-control. It allows you to step out of automatic behavior and make intentional choices about how you want to live. Growth also requires patience. You can't rush self-improvement, and real change rarely happens overnight. In a world obsessed with instant results, patience becomes a form of discipline. Every small effort you make adds up. Reading a few pages daily, exercising consistently, learning a new skill, or choosing calm over anger. Growth is like compound interest. It may seem slow at first, but over time it transforms your entire life. The key is consistency. The person who takes one steady step every day eventually goes farther than the one who sprints without direction. To focus your energy on personal growth, You have to stop wasting it on distractions that serve no purpose. Most people scatter their attention across too many things: endless scrolling, gossip, worry, and comparison. These mental habits drain your energy before you even start your day. The truth is, what you give your attention to grows. If you constantly feed your mind with negativity or distractions, you're strengthening the very things that hold you back. But when you direct that energy toward learning, discipline, and purpose, your entire mindset shifts. It's not about doing more, it's about doing what truly matters with full presence. One of the most transformative things you can do for your growth is to take full responsibility for your life. That means no blaming, no excuses, and no waiting for someone else to change before you do. Responsibility gives you power. When you realize that your attitude, your effort, and your mindset shape your life more than circumstances do, you become unstoppable. You might not control what happens to you, but you always control how you respond. Every response is a chance to practice mastery over yourself. Growth happens every time you choose discipline over comfort, learning over laziness, and patience over impulse. Personal growth thrives in discomfort. The moments that challenge you the most are the moments that refine you. Pain, failure, and setbacks are not enemies, they are teachers. When something doesn't go your way, instead of asking "why me?" ask "what is this teaching me?" That question turns frustration into fuel. Growth demands humility, the willingness to admit that you don't know everything, and the courage to learn from everything. People who grow are not afraid to start over, to fail, or to look foolish in pursuit of something greater. They know that every mistake carries a lesson that shapes their strength. Focusing on personal growth also means setting clear priorities. You can't move forward if your energy is scattered across 100 directions. Decide what truly matters to you: your health, your purpose, your relationships, your peace, and build your daily actions around those priorities. Every time you say yes to something unimportant, you're saying no to something that could move you closer to your potential. Energy is limited. Spend it wisely. When you align your actions with your values, your life becomes more focused, balanced, and intentional. The way you start your day often sets the tone for your growth. Begin each morning by grounding yourself through reflection, silence, reading, or movement. Take even 10 minutes to center your mind before the noise of the world takes over. Growth requires a strong inner foundation, and daily rituals help you maintain that stability. Consistent self-reflection keeps you aligned with your goals and prevents you from drifting into old patterns. Small, intentional routines build structure around your growth and remind you that improvement is a daily practice, not a distant event. Another crucial part of focusing your energy on growth is surrounding yourself with the right influences. The people you spend time with affect how you think, feel, and act. Being around those who complain, gossip, or stay stuck will quietly pull you into their rhythm. On the other hand, people who value growth, honesty, and effort will push you to rise higher. Energy is contagious. Protect your environment like it's sacred. If you can't find people who inspire you, read books by those who do, listen to those who think deeper, and feed your mind with wisdom that challenges your comfort zone. Self-discipline is the bridge between intention and transformation. You can dream all you want, but without disciplined action, nothing changes. Discipline doesn't mean perfection. It means showing up even when you don't feel like it. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, your self-respect grows. Confidence is built in those quiet moments when you choose what's right over what's easy. That's how you build momentum. Growth is not glamorous. It's often repetitive, uncomfortable, and recognized. But those daily efforts, those moments when no one is watching, are the ones that shape your character the most. Mental growth is just as important as physical or professional growth. Learn to train your mind to work for you. not against you. Negative thoughts will always appear, but you don't have to let them control you. Observe them without reacting. Replace them with constructive perspectives. Choose thoughts that support your peace instead of sabotage it. What you focus on becomes your emotional reality. Growth is not about ignoring pain, but about choosing a response that keeps you balanced and forward-moving. Strength is developed not in the absence of challenges, but in how you face them. Focusing on personal growth also means forgiving yourself for your past. Everyone has made choices they regret, but dwelling on them keeps you stuck. Growth requires acceptance, not of failure, but of the fact that failure is part of the process. Each mistake carries a lesson that prepares you for the next chapter. Be kind to yourself while you evolve. You can't shame yourself into improvement. You grow by acknowledging where you've been and choosing better every time you can. Compassion toward yourself builds resilience and gives you the emotional stability to keep progressing even when things feel uncertain. Another element of growth is continuous learning. Never reach a point where you think you've learned enough. The more you know, the more you realize there's always more to discover. Read, observe, question, explore, stay curious about life. Growth thrives on curiosity because curiosity keeps your mind open. When you stop learning, you stop expanding. Even simple lessons, a conversation, a challenge, or an unexpected event can teach you something valuable if you stay aware. The goal isn't to become perfect, it's to become more understanding, capable, and wise. Personal growth also includes emotional maturity, the ability to manage your reactions instead of being controlled by them. When someone upsets you, instead of lashing out, you can pause and respond from clarity. When life disappoints you, you can choose calm over chaos. That ability to stay composed in difficult moments shows real growth. Maturity isn't about age, it's about emotional control. Every time you resist reacting impulsively, you gain a deeper sense of peace. Emotional strength saves energy that would otherwise be wasted on drama, anger, or anxiety. That energy can then be redirected toward goals that elevate you. You'll know your focus on growth is working when your priorities shift from impressing others to improving yourself. You stop chasing quick pleasures and start investing in long-term fulfillment. You begin to care less about looking successful and more about being grounded. Growth changes your values from surface-level satisfaction to deeper purpose. The progress may be quiet, but its effects ripple through every area of your life, your confidence, your relationships, your work, and your mindset. In the end, focusing your energy on personal growth is about ownership. It's about realizing that your life is your responsibility and that every thought, habit, and decision shapes your future. Growth doesn't happen by accident. It's created through deliberate effort, self-reflection, and consistent action. The more you invest in your growth, the more life gives back to you. Not because it becomes easier, but because you become stronger. When you commit to evolving daily, you stop being controlled by circumstances and start directing your destiny. Growth is the quiet revolution that changes everything, not through noise or speed, but through the steady, powerful force of becoming who you were meant to be. Number 7. Accept judgment without reacting emotionally. Accepting judgment without reacting emotionally is one of the highest forms of inner strength. Most people are not destroyed by what others say, but by how deeply they allow those words to control their emotions. The truth is, you cannot stop people from judging you. They will interpret your actions through their experiences, their insecurities, and their biases. Trying to please everyone or escape criticism is a battle you'll never win. The goal is not to silence judgment, but to learn to hear it without losing your balance. When you develop this emotional stability, you gain freedom. the kind that cannot be taken away by opinions, gossip, or misunderstanding. Judgment often hurts because it touches a place within us that still seeks approval. The sting of criticism usually comes from the part of you that wants to be seen as good, capable, or worthy. When someone questions that, you feel attacked. But when your sense of self no longer depends on being understood by everyone, their opinions lose power. The moment you stop needing others to agree with your choices is the moment you reclaim your peace. Emotional maturity begins when you realize that judgment says more about the one who gives it than the one who receives it. Every judgment carries a reflection of the person making it. People criticize what they fear, misunderstand, or secretly wish they had. Some will judge your ambition because it reminds them of their own complacency. Others will judge your confidence because they lack it. When you internalize their opinions, you carry the weight of their insecurities. Instead, learn to see judgment for what it is: background noise in the journey of growth. You can't rise while constantly stopping to defend yourself. Silence is often a stronger response than any argument. Accepting judgment without reacting doesn't mean you stop caring about feedback. There's a difference between useful feedback and emotional projection. Feedback helps you grow. Judgment tries to bring you down. The key is discernment. When someone offers a critique meant to help you improve, listen with humility. But when someone speaks from spite or envy, let their words pass through you like wind through an open window. Not every comment deserves your energy. Responding to every judgment wastes the mental strength you could be using to build your life. Emotional reactions to judgment usually come from ego. The ego thrives on control. It wants everyone to like you, agree with you, and see your worth. When that doesn't happen, it becomes defensive. But strength comes from humility. When you detach from the need to prove yourself, judgment loses its hold. You no longer feel the urge to explain every decision or correct every misconception. Peace is found in restraint. The ability to stay calm when others misunderstand you shows deep inner confidence. It's not weakness to stay silent. It's wisdom to recognize that your worth doesn't need defending. To master this, you have to build a quiet trust in yourself. The more you know who you are, the less power judgment holds. When you're rooted in your values, external opinions can't shake your identity. You don't crumble when people doubt you because you're no longer looking outward for confirmation. Self-trust grows from living with honesty and integrity. You know your intentions, your effort, and your truth. That's all the validation you need. The stronger your inner foundation, the quieter your reactions become. It's natural to feel hurt when someone judges you unfairly, but emotional maturity means not letting that hurt dictate your behavior. Instead of reacting with anger or defensiveness, observe your emotions. Notice the tension in your chest, the thoughts rushing through your mind, the impulse to argue or explain. Then breathe. Create space between the feeling and the reaction. That small pause is where your power lies. In that space, you can choose calm over chaos. You can decide to respond with clarity instead of impulse. The more often you practice this, the stronger your emotional control becomes. Learning to stay calm under judgment also requires perspective. People will always see life through their own filters. You might be kind, but someone will still call you selfish. You might be honest, but someone will still call you rude. You might work hard, but someone will still call you lucky. You can't control perception, but you can control your truth. Understanding this brings peace. When you accept that being judged is part of being visible, you stop wasting energy fighting it. Even those who live quietly are judged, so if you'll be misunderstood either way, you might as well live authentically. Judgment can even be useful if you approach it wisely. It shows you where your insecurities still live. When someone's opinion hurts more than it should, it reveals an area within you that craves approval. Instead of reacting outwardly, turn inward and ask why. Growth happens when you use judgment as a mirror rather than an attack. If their words highlight something true, improve it. If they highlight something false, ignore it. Either way, you win. You grow in awareness or strengthen your resilience. Every judgment is an opportunity to practice self-control. There's also power in emotional neutrality. Not every opinion deserves an emotional response, and not every misunderstanding needs to be corrected. The more you react, the more power you give others over your peace. When you stay neutral, you remain the calm center in a world of noise. This doesn't mean you suppress emotions, it means you master them. You can acknowledge how something makes you feel without letting it dominate your mood. True power is calmness under pressure, the ability to remain grounded no matter how others perceive you. It's important to remember that not reacting doesn't mean you agree. Silence is not submission, it's self-respect. When you choose not to argue, you're conserving energy for what truly matters. Every time you engage in pointless defense, you trade peace for pride. The more confident you become, the less you need to prove. You begin to understand that time always reveals truth. Those who judge without understanding will eventually be confronted by their own short-sightedness. You don't need to convince anyone, you just need to continue living with consistency. In relationships, learning to accept judgment calmly can transform how you connect with others. When someone criticizes you, listen with patience, not defensiveness. Try to understand their perspective without taking it personally. Sometimes people express judgment when they're hurt or frustrated, not because they truly see you clearly. Responding calmly can de-escalate tension and create space for honest communication. But if the person continues to judge unfairly, it's also okay to distance yourself. Protecting your peace is not avoidance, it's emotional intelligence. The practice of non-reactivity also helps you build emotional independence. When your peace no longer depends on how others treat you, you gain control over your internal world. You stop allowing moods, tone, or opinions to dictate your energy. This doesn't happen overnight, but every time you choose composure over anger, you strengthen your resilience. Over time, you'll find that even harsh criticism no longer shakes you the way it once did. You hear it, you understand it, and you let it pass, like waves hitting a rock that refuses to move. It's also essential to let go of the need to explain yourself to everyone. Some people will misunderstand your silence, your ambition, or your kindness. And that's okay. Not everyone deserves access to your reasoning or your emotions. You don't owe an explanation for living according to your values. The right people will understand you without needing constant clarification. Those who insist on judging will never understand you, no matter how much you explain. Freeing yourself from that need is emotional liberation. Over time, accepting judgment without reacting becomes a habit. You learn to separate external noise from internal truth. You stop replaying conversations in your head, wondering what you could have said differently. You stop apologizing for being yourself. You stop letting small opinions create big emotions. You begin to realize that peace isn't found in changing how people see you, it's found in no longer needing them to. That's when you become truly free. When no judgment can disturb the calm within you. Ultimately, judgment is inevitable, but your reaction is always a choice. You can allow it to consume you, or you can let it teach you self-mastery. Every time you choose not to react emotionally, you're strengthening your character. You're proving to yourself that your peace is not fragile, that your sense of self is not up for negotiation. Over time, this steadiness becomes your greatest strength. The opinions around you fade, but your stability remains. That's what emotional freedom looks like, living so centered in your truth that no judgment, no misunderstanding, and no criticism can pull you away from who you truly are. Number 8. Practice self-approval before public approval. Practicing self-approval before seeking public approval is one of the most liberating skills you can develop. Most people spend their lives looking outward for validation, hoping that compliments, recognition, or acceptance will confirm their worth. This constant reliance on external approval is exhausting and fragile. People's opinions are fleeting, inconsistent, and often shaped by their own insecurities. Relying on them to feel good about yourself sets you up for disappointment. True confidence, peace, and self-respect come from internal validation, the ability to recognize your value without needing anyone else to confirm it. Self-approval begins with understanding that your worth is inherent. It is not tied to achievements, possessions, or how others perceive you. It comes from knowing who you are at your core and honoring that. Many people mistake external success for self-worth, measuring themselves against arbitrary standards that change depending on who they're trying to impress. This mindset creates a cycle of perpetual dissatisfaction. Learning to approve of yourself first breaks that cycle. When you validate your own choices, efforts, and character, external feedback becomes optional, not essential. One of the first steps in practicing self-approval is acknowledging your efforts honestly. It's easy to discount what you do every day because it may not be recognized by others. But progress, discipline, and dedication have value regardless of whether anyone notices them. Celebrate small victories, personal growth, and moments of integrity. Recognizing your own commitment and perseverance reinforces a sense of accomplishment that doesn't rely on applause. Each acknowledgement strengthens your internal foundation and teaches your mind to measure success by personal standards rather than public opinion. Another key aspect of self-approval is accepting your imperfections. Waiting for perfection before giving yourself approval is a trap that keeps you dependent on others' judgment. Nobody is flawless, and trying to be universally admired is impossible. Growth and self-acceptance go hand in hand. Recognizing your mistakes, learning from them, and forgiving yourself builds a sense of worth that doesn't crumble under criticism. When you treat yourself with fairness, compassion, and respect, you no longer need others to provide those same affirmations. Your internal validation becomes reliable and unshakable. Practicing self-approval also requires detachment from comparison. Comparing yourself to others shifts the focus outward and diminishes your self-respect. It creates a false measure of value based on someone else's achievements or lifestyle. Instead, focus on your own journey, your own standards, and your own progress. Measure your life against your personal goals and growth, not someone else's. Comparison only fuels insecurity, but self-approval cultivates stability. When you learn to honor your own path, external validation loses its grip. Self-approval is reinforced through self-discipline. When you commit to consistent actions aligned with your values, you naturally begin to respect yourself. Following through on promises to yourself, even in private, sends a powerful signal that you are reliable and capable. Discipline turns self-approval from an abstract idea into a lived experience. Each day you honor your commitments, maintain your integrity, or act in alignment with your principles, you cultivate internal trust. That trust becomes the cornerstone of self-approval, allowing you to rely on your own judgment rather than seeking constant reassurance from others. Part of practicing self-approval is also controlling your inner dialogue. Many people allow critical, judgmental thoughts to dominate their minds, creating self-doubt that seeks validation externally. Rewriting this inner narrative to be supportive, encouraging, and truthful is essential. Speak to yourself as you would to someone you genuinely care about. Recognize your effort, resilience, and capability. When your inner voice consistently affirms you, the need for outside approval diminishes. Internal approval reshapes your emotional responses, making you less reactive to criticism and more grounded in your identity. Self-approval also involves making decisions based on what is right for you rather than what will impress others. Often, people compromise their values, desires, or goals to gain praise or avoid disapproval. Living for the approval of others is exhausting and hollow. Self-approval means trusting your judgment enough to choose your own path, even if it goes against the expectations of others. When your decisions are aligned with your values, satisfaction comes from within, and external validation becomes a bonus rather than a requirement. It's important to note that self-approval does not lead to arrogance. It is not about elevating yourself above others or dismissing their opinions. Instead, it's about creating a stable inner reference point. Once you can approve of yourself, you interact with the world from a place of authenticity and strength. You no longer bend to please or manipulate for praise. Your actions become deliberate, measured, and true to your values. People respect confidence grounded in self-approval because it radiates consistency, reliability, and calm assurance. Developing self-approval also encourages emotional resilience. When criticism comes, you can evaluate it without panic or defensiveness. External opinions no longer dictate your mood because your sense of worth is already established internally. This doesn't mean ignoring valuable feedback. It means filtering it through a lens of self-respect. You take what serves your growth and discard what doesn't. Emotional stability arises from knowing that your value is not dependent on anyone else's perspective, creating a steady foundation from which you can navigate life's challenges. Self-approval can be practiced daily through small, intentional acts. Take moments to acknowledge your effort, even if no one else does. Celebrate your persistence, your honesty, and your progress. Set boundaries that protect your energy, because honoring your own limits is a form of approval. Reflect on your decisions and recognize when you've acted in alignment with your principles. Each action reinforces the message to yourself: you are worthy, capable, and complete as you are. These small, repeated practices build a lifelong habit of self-validation. When self-approval becomes habitual, public approval loses its power. Praise becomes enjoyable, not necessary. Criticism becomes information, not judgment. Life becomes less about performing and more about existing authentically. You no longer bend under the weight of opinion because your approval is already present. This freedom allows you to pursue meaningful goals, take risks, and grow without fear. Every choice is guided by purpose, not perception. Ultimately, practicing self-approval before seeking public approval is about reclaiming ownership of your sense of self. It's about trusting your judgment, honoring your efforts, and valuing your integrity. When you rely on internal validation, life becomes a series of conscious decisions rather than reactive responses to external pressures. Self-approval anchors your confidence, stabilizes your emotions, and empowers you to live authentically. The world may continue to judge, compare, and criticize, but when you first approve of yourself, those external opinions become irrelevant. Peace, clarity, and resilience become your default state, and your life becomes a reflection of your own values rather than someone else's expectations. When self-approval guides your actions, every step you take is measured by your own standards, not the applause or judgment of others. You stop living in fear of disapproval, stop seeking validation in the wrong places, and start creating a life that feels aligned, meaningful, and fulfilling. This is the essence of true freedom, the ability to approve of yourself first, and let the world's approval follow or not, without compromising your peace or your integrity. Number 9. Prioritize purpose over social acceptance. Prioritizing purpose over social acceptance is a critical step toward living a meaningful and empowered life. Most people spend far too much time trying to fit in, to please others, or to meet expectations that are not truly theirs. Social approval can feel comforting, but it is fleeting and unreliable. It can easily shift based on someone else's mood, opinion, or circumstances. When you live for acceptance, you surrender control over your own life to others. Your choices, your energy, and your time are filtered through external judgment rather than your own vision. Choosing purpose instead of approval frees you from this trap. It allows you to act in alignment with your deepest values, goals, and principles, even if it means standing alone or facing criticism. Living with purpose means knowing what matters to you beyond the expectations of others. It requires reflection and clarity. Social norms and trends constantly compete for attention, convincing people that approval and popularity are the highest markers of success. But living for acceptance often leads to superficial achievements that feel hollow. True fulfillment comes from aligning daily actions with long-term goals and values. It comes from knowing that each choice contributes to a life that has meaning according to your own standards. Purpose anchors you when external validation wavers. To prioritize purpose, you must first understand your own values and priorities. What principles guide your life? What outcomes matter most to you, not to your peers, family, or society? When you answer these questions honestly, you create a framework for decision-making that is independent of public opinion. With this clarity, you no longer make compromises simply to gain favor or avoid judgment. Every action becomes intentional and directed toward a specific outcome, rather than reactive to others' expectations. Purpose-driven living creates a steady compass in a world filled with shifting demands. Choosing purpose over acceptance also requires courage. It is often uncomfortable to go against the current of what others consider normal or desirable. People may criticize, question, or isolate you when your choices do not align with the majority. That discomfort is temporary, but the cost of abandoning your purpose for approval is lasting. Courage is the willingness to face judgment without sacrificing integrity. The stronger your commitment to purpose, the less others' opinions can sway your direction. Every time you act with courage, you reinforce your independence and strengthen your resolve. Time is a finite resource, and prioritizing purpose means investing it in ways that matter. Social approval often demands constant attention, likes, compliments, invitations, and validation. Chasing it leaves little energy for genuine growth or meaningful action. Purpose-driven individuals allocate their time deliberately, focusing on what advances their vision. They recognize that the approval of the crowd is temporary, but the impact of their purpose endures. When you invest your energy in meaningful pursuits rather than superficial acceptance, your efforts compound into long-term satisfaction and achievement. Living for purpose also brings clarity to relationships. People who prioritize approval tend to engage in connections that boost their image or increase popularity. Purpose-oriented individuals seek relationships that align with their values and support their goals. Surrounding yourself with people who respect your journey rather than those who demand conformity strengthens resilience and focus. Those who criticize or resist your choices may naturally fall away, and that is a sign of growth, not loss. Intentional relationships sustain energy instead of draining it. Another essential aspect of prioritizing purpose is resilience in the face of criticism. When you live to satisfy others, criticism can feel like a threat to your identity. Purpose creates a buffer against this emotional vulnerability. You recognize that disapproval does not invalidate your choices or your worth. You act based on principle, not applause. Over time, criticism becomes data rather than judgment. It can guide refinement when constructive, but it does not determine your self-esteem or direction. Emotional resilience grows from internal alignment with purpose. Purpose-driven living also cultivates focus and discipline. When you know what matters, distractions and irrelevant social pressures lose their grip. You no longer expend mental energy worrying about approval or comparison. Every decision is filtered through the lens of your mission, and every action is intentional. Focus becomes a natural byproduct of living with clarity. Discipline grows because you no longer need to chase fleeting recognition. Instead, your efforts are invested where they produce long-term results aligned with your values. Prioritizing purpose requires internal accountability. When social approval is the goal, accountability is external, measured by recognition, praise, or acknowledgement. When purpose is the goal, accountability shifts inward. You evaluate success by whether you acted in alignment with your principles and objectives. This internal system of evaluation is more reliable than any external validation. It ensures consistent progress and reduces vulnerability to manipulation or fluctuating opinions. Self-accountability strengthens integrity and cultivates confidence that does not depend on social affirmation. Clarity of purpose also nurtures personal growth. People who chase approval tend to conform to others' expectations, limiting exploration and self-discovery. Purpose-driven individuals experiment, take risks, and embrace challenges that stretch their capabilities. They measure growth by skills gained, understanding developed, and resilience built, not by applause received. Each experience, regardless of external reaction, becomes an opportunity to deepen mastery of self and life. Purpose transforms ordinary actions into meaningful development, providing satisfaction independent of social recognition. Living for purpose encourages authenticity. When approval is the driving force, people often adopt masks, hide their true beliefs, and conform to perceived norms. This creates internal conflict and emotional fatigue. Purpose-oriented individuals act consistently with their values, expressing genuine thoughts, choices, and behaviors. Authenticity fosters self-respect and attracts relationships that are aligned and mutually supportive. When your life is a reflection of your values rather than a response to external judgment, it becomes rich with integrity and coherence. Purpose also provides a compass during adversity. Social acceptance can vanish in difficult times, leaving approval seekers vulnerable to despair or indecision. Those anchored in purpose, however, retain direction even when isolated or challenged. Purpose is resilient because it is internal, not contingent on popularity. It sustains motivation and clarity even when others disagree or misunderstand. Challenges no longer derail your focus. They become opportunities to deepen commitment to your mission and grow stronger in your convictions. Prioritizing purpose requires frequent reflection. Life presents countless decisions, and without regular recalibration, it is easy to drift towards seeking approval. Reflection allows you to assess whether your daily actions align with your long-term objectives. It helps you eliminate choices made to please others rather than serve your vision. Reflection sharpens awareness, strengthens accountability, and keeps your focus on what truly matters. Purpose is maintained through consistent evaluation and conscious adjustment. Social acceptance can never match the fulfillment that comes from pursuing purpose. Popularity may bring temporary pleasure, but purpose brings lasting satisfaction, meaning, and influence. When your life is purpose-driven, every choice carries intention, every effort produces value, and every action resonates with significance. The approval of others may come naturally as a byproduct, but it is never the primary goal. Your energy is no longer scattered in pursuit of validation. It is concentrated on creating results, impact, and self-alignment. Ultimately, prioritizing purpose over social acceptance is about reclaiming sovereignty over your life. It is about deciding what matters most and living according to that standard, regardless of outside opinion. It requires courage, discipline, self-awareness, and reflection. The moment you embrace purpose as your guiding principle, social pressures lose their control. You live intentionally, act deliberately, and measure success by internal standards rather than external applause. Life becomes centered, meaningful, and resilient. Choosing purpose over acceptance is the ultimate act of freedom, a decision to live fully, authentically, and in alignment with the life you were meant to create. Number 10. Surround yourself with independent thinkers. Surrounding yourself with independent thinkers is one of the most powerful ways to elevate your life and expand your perspective. People who think for themselves, challenge assumptions, offer fresh viewpoints, and push you to examine your own beliefs and choices. When your social circle is filled with individuals who conform blindly, it becomes easy to adopt habits, opinions, and limitations that aren't yours. Energy spent in the company of those who follow the crowd can subtly erode your originality and confidence. Independent thinkers, on the other hand, stimulate your mind, inspire courage, and create an environment where critical thought and personal growth thrive. Choosing the people around you wisely is not about elitism, it's about creating a space that nurtures curiosity, resilience, and authenticity. Independent thinkers question everything, including themselves. They are not afraid to challenge their own assumptions, which makes them powerful allies in personal growth. When you interact with such individuals, you are encouraged to evaluate your own life from multiple angles, discovering blind spots and uncovering opportunities for improvement. Their questions are not meant to intimidate, but to spark insight. They help you see beyond conventional limitations and outdated patterns that may have held you back. Being around people who critically assess themselves and the world motivates you to do the same, creating an ongoing cycle of self-improvement and reflection. The influence of independent thinkers is subtle but profound. They don't impose opinions, yet their perspective opens new pathways in your mind. Exposure to diverse viewpoints teaches adaptability, creativity, and humility. You begin to understand that there is no single way to approach life, no universal formula for success, and no fixed rule for happiness. Each independent mind you encounter acts as a mirror, reflecting aspects of yourself you may have overlooked or underestimated. Their independence challenges your automatic assumptions and encourages you to make decisions that are aligned with your own reasoning rather than external pressures. Surrounding yourself with independent thinkers also reinforces your courage to stand apart. When everyone around you follows trends or conforms to collective expectations, stepping outside that line feels risky. But when you see others doing the same, thinking freely, making bold decisions, and living authentically, it normalizes independence. You realize that your choice to act according to your own values, beliefs, and purpose is not dangerous or abnormal. It is powerful. Being in the company of independent thinkers reduces fear, strengthens confidence, and validates your efforts to live deliberately. True independent thinkers provide honest feedback rather than empty praise. They don't tell you what you want to hear. They tell you what you need to hear. Constructive criticism from someone who thinks deeply and objectively is invaluable. It allows you to refine ideas, strengthen decisions, and avoid pitfalls. In contrast, approval-seeking relationships often surround you with agreement, leaving blind spots unchecked. Independent thinkers push you to be better, not just to look better. Their value lies in their capacity to challenge your comfort zones while still respecting your autonomy and individuality. Independent thinkers are often driven by curiosity, not ego. They seek knowledge, understanding, and wisdom rather than validation or status. Their approach to life is about discovery and improvement. By spending time with such people, your mindset naturally shifts toward growth. You begin to prioritize learning, reflection, and insight over superficial recognition. Conversations become a source of expansion rather than judgment or gossip. Energy that might have been drained by conformist interactions is now invested in thoughtful engagement, innovative thinking, and meaningful dialogue. Being around independent thinkers requires a level of openness and humility. Their ideas may challenge your assumptions or confront deeply held beliefs. Initially, this can feel uncomfortable, but discomfort is often the precursor to growth. Learning to entertain different perspectives without immediately rejecting them strengthens your reasoning and emotional resilience. You discover the value of questioning yourself and your environment, and you begin to approach decisions with more clarity and intentionality. Growth occurs not by avoiding challenge, but by engaging with it intelligently. Independent thinkers often model accountability in ways that inspire action. They take responsibility for their decisions, admit mistakes, and learn from experience. Observing this in practice reinforces the importance of integrity in your own life. You begin to understand that independence is not about rebellion or defiance, it is about responsibility. It is the ability to navigate life according to principle and reason, rather than convenience or social approval. Being in their presence instills habits of self-discipline, reflection, and thoughtful evaluation that are critical to long-term success and fulfillment. Another crucial aspect of surrounding yourself with independent thinkers is the opportunity for creative collaboration. Ideas flourish when minds that are willing to challenge and explore interact. When everyone simply agrees, innovation stagnates. Independent thinkers bring unique perspectives and encourage experimentation. They inspire solutions that you may never have considered, helping you approach challenges with fresh eyes and inventive strategies. Collaboration with independent thinkers creates a dynamic environment where ideas are tested, refined, and strengthened, producing outcomes that are far greater than the sum of individual contributions. Independent thinkers also provide emotional support in unique ways. Unlike those who offer validation purely for comfort, they support your growth and autonomy. They celebrate progress while acknowledging challenges, offering guidance without imposing control. Their support is empowering because it respects your ability to choose, decide, and act. Unlike superficial approval, this type of encouragement builds resilience. You learn to trust your judgment while remaining open to wisdom, creating a balance between self-reliance and learning from others. Being around independent thinkers teaches discernment. You learn to differentiate between opinions that are grounded in thought and experience versus those driven by insecurity, conformity, or impulse. This skill extends beyond your social circle, improving decision-making in all areas of life. You begin to recognize the value of constructive challenge, the limits of popular opinion, and the importance of cultivating relationships that encourage growth rather than stagnation. Discernment strengthens critical thinking and ensures your energy is invested wisely toward ideas and people that elevate rather than diminish you. Independent thinkers inspire long-term vision. Their focus is not on fleeting trends or temporary recognition, but on meaningful outcomes and sustainable growth. Being in their presence encourages you to consider the bigger picture, the long-term consequences of actions, and the alignment of decisions with enduring values. You begin to prioritize effort that contributes to lasting results over shallow gestures that might impress temporarily. Vision becomes clearer and your goals more deliberate when influenced by individuals who see beyond immediate gratification. The influence of independent thinkers can be transformative because it fosters a mindset of self-respect and autonomy. You begin to internalize the notion that your life is yours to shape, guided by principle and reason rather than by the fleeting expectations of others. You develop confidence in your own reasoning and learn to trust your instincts. When you cultivate this environment, decision-making becomes deliberate and empowered, fear of judgment diminishes, creativity increases, and clarity of purpose strengthens. Independent thinkers also teach the value of lifelong learning. They are never complacent. They continue to question, explore, and grow. Their habits encourage you to adopt the same approach. You see the importance of continuously challenging yourself intellectually, emotionally, and ethically. The pursuit of knowledge becomes a habit, not a task, and growth becomes a natural outcome of your interactions. Their mindset creates an atmosphere where curiosity, courage, and wisdom are constantly reinforced. Ultimately, surrounding yourself with independent thinkers transforms not just your social environment, but your inner landscape. You gain clarity, courage, and resilience. You develop habits of thought, reflection, and responsibility that enhance every area of life. The relationships you cultivate are meaningful, stimulating, and empowering. By choosing to invest your time and energy with those who think freely, you create a life rich in insight, authenticity, and strength. Your personal growth accelerates, your decisions become more intentional, and your ability to live by your own standards is fortified. Being intentional about the company you keep is a lifelong practice. Not everyone you meet will encourage independent thought, and that's acceptable. What matters is consistently seeking out relationships that challenge, inspire, and elevate you. Independent thinkers help you live deliberately, think critically, and act courageously. They remind you that your life is yours to shape and that your opinions, choices, and values are worth protecting. In their presence, you cultivate the confidence, clarity, and resilience needed to navigate the world without compromise. The quality of the minds around you directly shapes the quality of your life, and choosing wisely ensures that you thrive, grow, and live authentically.